Good afternoon, Tennessee. My name is Christy Cobb. I'm a senior StudySync implementation specialist for the Southeast, and I am joined by Tracy Weber and Zach McPeters, and we are super excited to bring you this Tennessee specific statewide event on finishing the school year strong. Throughout our time together, we will have the chance to review some of the major whys and hows around the StudySync close reading routine. We'll look at and learn about different ways in which you can utilize the skill lessons found in the close reading routine, as well as some strategies for implementation. And then we'll end up by exploring some of the key features, tools, and resources to support you in your use of StudySync and to help you finish this year off strong. So let's start off by first looking at the bones of StudySync and the foundation of everything that you've been doing, which is the close reading routine. Remember, StudySync's close reading routine is grounded in research-based best practice. And we wanted to take this moment to really explore exactly what close reading is and why it is so impactful in your classrooms. First off, close reading is a practice to figure out complex text. Dr. Tim Shanahan, one of our thought leaders, says that close reading is an extensive analysis of a text in order to come to terms with what it says, how it says it, and what it means. As the foundation of StudySync's thematic and novel study units, let's explore exactly what close reading does and does not entail as you prepare to take your students through the intensive analysis that leads to deep understanding. So first, what isn't close reading? Close reading is not a technique or a strategy. It's not a synonym for reading comprehension. Though close reading helps to improve reading comprehension. It's not about a literal read. It's not how you might read a novel at the beach on vacation, but rather the really deep and intense study that you might have felt in college. StudySync is not about just annotations or annotating the text or simply citing evidence. Close reading is in your standards, but not where you think it is. Let's continue to explore a little bit more about close reading. So, what does it actually require? Close reading starts off by requiring short, complex passages. Dr. Doug Fisher, one of our other thought leaders, says that close reading relies on the use of short and sufficiently complex text, or a portion of a text. To engage in multiple readings, the text needs to be rich enough to support repeated examinations and manageable enough in length to return it to it again and again and again, and sometimes again. Close reading should not be done with just any text. The text needs to be short and it needs to be difficult, or it needs to be a portion of the text that is impactful to the overall theme or plot, structures, elements, so on and so forth. Our thematic units allow us to include a multitude of diverse, short, complex texts, and they allow students to engage in close reading and have greater exposure to a wide range of authors with various backgrounds, cultures, and whose subjects tackle a diversity of issues. In thinking about StudySync and the repetition that you may see throughout the text, it all happens with a purpose. In StudySync, we have this process built into our reading routines where students will engage with a first read to understand what the text says, at least one skill lesson to understand how the text works and explore its complexity, and a close read to analyze what the text means, ensuring that they move through a full and complete close reading of a complex text. Some of you might be thinking, why am I going back over and over again? Some of you may have had the thought as to if my students can engage with a text for such a length of time. As you look at the 3 questions in the 3 different lessons that you see here, these are part of your reasoning why. It's truly taking students from the surface level of understanding, digging a little deeper, and then transferring that knowledge at the very end. When we think about the text that you see throughout the thematic units and the novel study units, you'll also note that the effectiveness of the repeated readings relies on the strength of the text-dependent questions that you'll find throughout them. The questions should require students to return to the text, and there should be a sequence of questions that will lead students more deeply into the text. Questions should increase in difficulty and require both literal and inferential thinking and generate discussion. And if students are only being asked a depth of knowledge 1 level question or that surface level question, those questions don't promote the thinking and discussion necessary to truly see students into the deeper understandings of a text and how it works, and then being able to understand what it truly means. I know that Tennessee has a very distinct focus on text-dependent questions and text-dependent prompts. And StudySync is excited to be able to ensure that the research that backs our curriculum truly supports Tennessee's focus on those text-dependent questions and prompts. Here you'll see some examples of text-dependent questions and prompts and the progression that happens throughout the StudySync close reading routine. StudySync provides this rigorous questioning for you within our assignments and lesson plans, so you do not have to create these questions on your own. We ensure that students are presented with the rigorous questions that increase in difficulty as they move through the routine, from the first to the skill and to the final close read lesson. For example, you'll see here during the first read, the students engage with a depth of knowledge level 1 and 2 question with a discussion question, multiple choice comprehension questions, and or think questions. So here you'll see, why does the author refer to Antonio Cruz and Felix Varga as the Amigo brothers? How were the boys alike? How were they different? These are examples of first read text-dependent questions and depth of knowledge level 1 and 2. As you move into that center column, looking at the skill lesson where students engage with depth of knowledge level 1 and 2, you'll read the question. According to the module, what does the dialogue between Antonio and Felix in paragraphs 14 through 20 reveal about the theme? Here, students are starting to see questions around the vocabulary or discussion. They're starting to truly be able to engage more with the use of the particular skill that students just had practice with. And they're also able to use that skill to better understand what that text is saying to them and how it's truly working in order to say even more. Finally, in the close read lesson, students engage with a depth of knowledge level 2, 3, and 4 questions. They do this with the use of skill focus questions, the discussion questions, and the writing prompt. In the example, the close read culminating writing prompt states, how does the theme of Amigo Brothers help you understand a larger lesson about life, human nature, or human experience? Here, students are transferring all of the knowledge that they've learned in the first read of what the text says into how, and the knowledge of what they learned in the skill lesson of how the text works in order to showcase how they use that to better see a larger lesson about life in these texts. Another key portion of the close reading routine and close reading overall is discussion. Discussion requires students to return to the text to support their answers. Discussing in a group also provides the collective resources to forward students' thinking and deepen their comprehension. This is consistent with the findings of Slavin, Shong, and Groff and Lake in 2008, who reported that a common feature of effective intervention programs was opportunities for students to work in small groups to help one another master reading skills, and in which the success of the team depends on the individual learning of each team member. Sort of like what we're doing here today. We're individually taking in the content. However, our interpretation of the content, the way that we digest it, and how we see that we can use it inside of our classrooms may look a bit different. We may be from different school districts, or we may be from the same. However, understanding and seeing those perspectives, bringing them together and hearing from one another will allow for us to truly seek success in our classrooms. Every StudySync lesson plan ensures that students are discussing what they have read every single day, and therefore they get the chance to be a part of a successful team, classroom, district, as they take their individual learning and spread it across their classroom and their peers. In thinking about what makes a successful ELA classroom, let's just quickly look at some of the things that you're probably doing already in your classroom. The staples of ELA learning state that students must read independently, talk about their learning with others, and write about their reading in every single classroom. And just note that this is happening in every single StudySync close reading lesson. So let's just review some of the really big impacts around close reading and why it's so important and impactful in your classroom. The benefits of close reading are what's stated here. There are many benefits, right, to close reading. One of the most is that close reading allows even struggling readers to access complex text. Doug Fisher stated that text that would have been considered out of students' reach in the past can be made accessible when systematic questioning is used to support comprehension. Close reading relies on the in-depth study of complex text. While reading the complex text, they may seem too challenging for readers, particularly readers who struggle with comprehension. Research indicates that students learn more from reading texts that are too difficult from them than the opposite. So note that within that close reading process, you're giving students who may have not gotten the opportunity one right in front of them with the supports to help them. If that's not enough, let's look at 2 case studies which reinforce this fact even more. I'll give you a moment to read the description of each study on your screen. Now the results. Take a moment to read each result. The parts that really stood out to me, I've bolded. And with respect to the 9th graders, we can see that working with texts that were likely closer to students' instructional levels provided no learning advantage. The 9th grade study basically says using easy text showed no market result. When given harder complex text, students made learning gains over the course of 12 weeks. This disproves the theory that students need to read at their grade level or below it in order to develop reading skills, which means there is no good reason for most students or situations to shift older students to easier text to facilitate their reading, as long as you are ready to provide instructional support. That means not using texts that poorly support content standards. That means not trying to manage multiple text levels. That means not stigmatizing or isolating lower readers. Why do it if there's any instructional benefit? We want to do this so that we know that students feel and understand that they can accomplish anything that's set out in front of them. This speaks to the social emotional benefits of close reading. So here you'll see students know when they're being given easier material than their peers. When they're encouraged to tackle challenging material, but given the proper scaffolds to do it, it builds self-confidence. This increases engagement as well. Think, I feel smart. I want to do this. I want to accomplish this. I can. Through the use of StudySync's close reading routine, the differentiation, the scaffolds that you have provided, and all of the resources around it to support you and your students can have that train of thought, and they can believe that they can accomplish the close reading routine and so much more inside of your classroom. Continuing to think about the close reading routine, let's really take a closer look at the skill lessons that are provided within them, and think about how we can optimize the skill lessons that are happening within the close reading routine and allowing our students to dig deeper in order to access the most complex parts of the text, and how we can do that for a wide range of students within our classrooms, either by responding to data or by just simply trying to make it a bit more engaging. Digging deeper with skill lessons first starts off by understanding what they're there for. We reviewed it just a moment ago, but just to make sure we've got it, our StudySync skill lessons are meant to help students understand how the text truly works. Here are a few strategies that you can use in order to support your use of StudySync inside of your classroom. First, pre-teaching with StudySync Skills Library. So as you might all know, the StudySync Library tab actually is filled with numerous libraries, and one of them is the Skills Library, which houses all of your skill lessons. Within that skill library, you have access to all of the skill lessons for grades 6 through 12, and therefore can pre-teach effectively and equitably in order to support students at a range of levels. Here are some steps for a way in which you can truly pre-teach with StudySync skill lessons. You'll want to start off by looking at the various different topic or skill or standard that you'll have students explore. You'll also want to note the relevant skill lessons that are provided within the StudySync skill library, in addition to making note that there are spotlight skills for every single skill lesson that you would find in the core. Remember, the spotlight skill lessons are taught at 1 to 2 grade levels below the skill level that they are called out for. They use text that you will not find inside of the core and therefore can be taught in isolation and are a great way to prime your students up for those grade level skill lessons. You'll want to plan time within your class period to make these happen, or you want to be able to use them as an intervention with those students that may have a pull out or push in teacher with them. If students are really struggling, you may want to consider other skill lessons from the various different grades. Again, you have the opportunity to use those from grades 6 through 12. So make sure you're making use of all of the resources around you. And during the instruction, definitely be sure to think about ways in which you can make this more engaging. Pushing out to different resources, using different modalities in order to teach those lessons. You want to make sure that students have the ability to be ready for the upcoming class period by pre-teaching with one of the other skill lessons in the library or through other means. Another strategy is to use metacognition to see student thinking in action. So to get more insight from your students, you want to start to think about the ways in which the StudySync skill lesson, your turns, are a check for understanding. They're a stop on the way to the skills, focus, discussion, and writing that take place in the close read lesson. They're a mini you do, whereas the close read lesson is more of an extended you do when you're using those skill focused questions. Still, sometimes we want more information about students, your turn responses, whether they are accurate or not. And so therefore, you can think about ways in which you can use the metacognition to see student thinking in action and to plan accordingly for the upcoming lesson in that close reading routine, which would be the close read lesson. Ways in which you can use metacognition to see student thinking in action is by starting off within that skill lesson. You want to go ahead and assign and customize that skill lesson and consider the following prompt. right? What steps did you take to answer the your turn question? What steps from the checklist helped you? What questions did you ask yourself? These questions are super important into seeing how students are using the strategies and habits that you're teaching them, and if they're actually putting them into practice to support their your turn activity, and to also support them as they move forward into the close read lesson. Note that you can provide feedback to your students in various different ways, either written or video feedback through the StudySync recording feature on the students' thought processes. And you can also think about ways in which you can give group feedback and whole group feedback. One of the next strategy is you can start with the your turn for advanced learners. So oftentimes we're thinking about our struggling readers, but we also have to remember that we have some really high performing students out there in our classrooms that could use an additional push as well. If students can accurately answer the your turn questions, you might consider moving them on to the close read independently or in a small group, or think about ways that you're going to modify the skill and the close read lesson to really increase the rigor inside of your classroom. To ensure that your students will understand the steps of applying a particular skill, you can engage students in a discussion of their thought processes after completing the skill focus section of the close read. You ask students questions such as, what did you do first? How did you define blank word? How did you approach your annotation? What felt easy to you? What felt difficult? How come? This is truly going to push your students, moving the pace along a little bit faster for students too, who are ready to do a little bit of a harder push of work. This will help them stay engaged and help you work more closely with students who need the additional support. And including a metacognitive discussion for your advanced learners will give you valuable insight into their thinking. Here you'll see some helpful tips on ways that you can facilitate that metacognitive discussion with your students, as well as ways in which you can start with a your turn for advanced learners, or just to provide a challenge to your students as they're progressing through the year in the use of StudySync. So we're thinking about units 3, unit 4, unit 5, where we can switch it up for students, where they've mastered a majority of the skills or standards, and now you're looking for ways to truly engage them and keep them excited about the learning at the end of the year. This is a great resource, and to take hold of the resources that you already have available within StudySync and therefore use it in a different way. Thinking about using our skill lessons in a different way, let's shift focus to our last and final point. What resources are available to influence engagement and support the unique needs in your classroom? Well, the great thing is StudySync never stops working, and we will never stop innovating. And that's because we know that teachers like yourself and districts out there just want to see our students succeed, and they want to be able to see them do that in incredible ways that differ from day to day, keep students engaged, and utilize tech and tools that really excite students to learn more in the classroom. StudySync has added some really awesome new tools as well as resources to support you that you may or may not have seen show up in your teacher account over the last couple of months. First thing I want to call out to you is our reteach tool. Note, as I go through this list, all of the links in front of you are live, so feel free to click on them and use them. You'll find resources behind them and great how-tos in case they really excite you and you want to get using them now. So the reteach tool is a way in which you can individualize support for all of your students based on standard suggestions. The StudySync data tagging is filtering into our gradebook and therefore allows for us to provide this individualized support suggestions to you. You'll find the reteach tool inside of your gradebook, and you'll want to go ahead and click on view in order to find that tool all the way at the bottom of the list underneath your standards or standards mastery view, which I hope you're all using as well. Next, you'll note that we updated our system to have live monitoring. And live monitoring will allow for you to do exactly what you think it's going to do. It's going to allow for you to check out how students are moving and progressing through the assessments that StudySync has within its assess section. You'll locate that live monitoring tool by navigating to the assignment section of the StudySync site, accessing the text area within that gray bar, and therefore you'll see live monitoring by right-clicking on that cogwheel and selecting it while students are taking their assessments. Next are our blast text pairings. If you have not checked out blast text pairings, please do. We are releasing this content on a regular basis now because students and teachers across the nation are just so excited about it. We take text and blasts that cover a similar theme, topic, idea, current event, pair them together for you, and create an experience and lesson that really drives students' choice, student voice, and gets the discussion going in your classroom around something that students truly want to be able to engage in. Note that BLAST, our students' favorite thing within the StudySync curriculum, and you can find over 2,000 BLAST within the BLAST library, in addition to them being filtered out by tags and topics, and you're able to search for specific events as well. Check out the blast and text pairing blog post that I've linked here in order to learn more about our blast text pairings, the ones that we've already put together for you, or maybe think about how you'll put together a blast text pairing of your own. Next, I just wanted to include for you the new library editions that happened from January 2021 to December 2021. We all know a lot was going on, so we don't blame you if you missed the 10 brand new texts that were added to the library every single month. Here, you'll see in that link that you will find all of those texts in one clean document for you. And you'll also note some really great highlights across the top of 9 brand new novel studies, 45 new authors, and 30 female authors. So go check out the new ads from last year and get excited for our final list that will come at the end of 2022 this year. And then finally, you heard me talk about a little bit about this before, our use of spotlight skills. Note that again, spotlight skills, you'll find those inside of your library in the skills library, and you can actually filter out for them. Remember, using spotlight skills are great for remediation, reteaching, reinforcing specific skills and standards, and they can be taught in isolation from the core ELA unit. In thinking about exciting things, and if you're thinking about ways that you can engage your students, these and the work that you've already done as well is included in this, is our top library hits for 2021. I get super excited when our library team announces these because they always make us guess. And I get super excited about them because it also tells us a little bit about what's going on around the country and all of the StudySync users around that are happening, and teachers like you. So here you'll see those top 5 novel study hits, Fahrenheit 451 taking the lead, and with Of Mice and Men closely behind it, not shocked at all. Some really great classic text there. And then you have your top novel study of all time of that year was A Long Walk to Water by Linda Supart. It was assigned more than any other novel studies added in 2021. This novel study was one of 9 that was added last year. So if you did not get a chance to check out the new curriculum created around it, please go and check those out. And then the top novel library item of all time is one that you guys could have guessed, especially our middle school friends here, is Hatchet by Gary Paulson. It claims the top title of StudySync Library. I'm pretty sure it claimed the top in 2020 as well. So we know that you're out there using it and are very appreciative of the resources that are created around it. Other exciting ways to engage your students in the classroom as you are finishing up the year strong with StudySync is to think about our including our 9th annual StudySync media contest for you and your students in the classroom. Our media contest is really engaging for all students and can be super engaging for you too. Students get to submit a StudySync TV video episode. They get to create their own podcast. They can create a preview video, a concept definition or skills TV video, a novel poster or graphic novel poster, anything that they're thinking about in the ways for anything that's just not in StudySync, right? It's so exciting to see the creativity of our students. It's also a really cool way to think about ending a particular unit or ending out a close read. How can students truly showcase what they've learned, themes, central ideas, so much more in this incredible way, and using the media and tools that they have provided by you and your district. And note that it's not going for nothing. There are some prizes out there. Our grand prize is our $500 Amazon gift card and a classroom Zoom with our StudySync CEO, Robert Romano. Just a big plug here. Robert is pretty awesome and he's kind of fun to chat with. So do note that your students will have a really great time chatting it up with him. And then there's also $100 Amazon gift card prizes awarded to top middle and high school entries for those different categories. So you'll see that we have this link live here. You can record and submit your StudySync TV video episodes, the podcast, the concept definition, novel posters, short stories, so much more outside of anything that's outside of the StudySync library. And you can find more details at that link that you'll find on your screen there below. You can also always reach out to our StudySync implementation specialist like myself, or you can contact us through our contact form to find out more additional information if you have any questions around your submissions for your students. And my final pro tip for it is think about a full class entry versus individual entries per student. It allows for student collaboration and creating a theme for your entire class to present to StudySync. So just and bring students into different roles that they feel comfortable with. So just some really big tips out there for you. So Tennessee can win and I can highlight you guys. All righty. And thinking about highlighting you all, I wanted to share with you that you guys definitely know about our badges program. Our badges program allows for you to continue your learning and track that learning and earn swag as you become the StudySync experts in your classroom, at your school, and in your districts or in your state. And thinking about Tennessee has the highest badge earners in the nation, which I am so excited and proud to be able to say to you all. This means that you are really using the various different modalities in order to support yourself in learning more about StudySync. And I hope you continue to do so. If you have not checked out our badges program, first, probably ask the person sitting next to you or just a text or phone call away because they're probably using it. Also, there's plenty of information inside of our Help Center to learn more about the badges program. And I've also included it here in that linked photo that you're seeing on your screen. And then finally, if you are a coach or a district leader out there, or just a high quality teacher that's super excited about supporting other teachers in your district or at your school using StudySync, please think about joining our StudySync coach community. Our StudySync coach community meets monthly, and we cover a range of topics to support you in supporting your teachers in using StudySync. You'll think we have our Padlet of resources that is exclusive to our StudySync coaches. And we also get to have conversations and discussions and presentations from great people like Jay McTighe, who hung out with us this last month, talking about our planning and talking about the resources and how we truly set intentions for ourselves through the use of the curriculum or any curriculum, and really see effective feedback in our classroom. We also have a discussion coming up with Catlin Tucker happening in the next month or so, as well as so much more. So definitely check it out. You see the QR codes on your screen. If you would like more information, please feel free to reach out to myself or reach out to one of your incredible McGraw-Hill representatives to get your questions answered and to get more info. As always, you will see my information on the screen. Again, my name is Christy Cobb. I am yours, you are mine, as I am the Southeast Senior StudySync Implementation Specialist to you. You also have my partners in crime in all things good as well, which are Tracy Weber and Zach McPeters, who are there to support you in your implementation of StudySync as you finish up this year strong and start to think about preparing for next year. As we think about preparing for next year, if I don't get to hang out with your district or with you as a teacher and supporting any of your questions or thoughts, I do want to say thank you for your time today. And I truly hope that you all stay safe and just have an incredible end to your year. Wishing you nothing but the best. Thank you.